Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily with Kyle Elfrink and Ray Flowers, Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't forget to use the promo code FSD20 for a 20% discount on the products over at fantasyguru.com.
For the final time before the Christmas holiday, we welcome you into Fantasy Sports Daily. Kyle Elfrink and a very jovial Ray Flowers. Yesterday it was just a jacket. Today, Ray, I see you've gone a full sweater for today's festivities, huh?
I do, and I have a friend on my shoulder.
Oh, gosh, I didn't even see. It had faded into the background.
Yeah.
Did you tranquilize your friend Alvin, or is that a fake?
That is fake.
Okay.
That is not stuffed. That is not a real one that I do feed the squirrels in the backyard and everything, but this is just a faux version of the backyard squirrel.
It is very lifelike, though, Ray. It's a little creepy. Is this a play on Christmas Vacation with the squirrel chasing around the house?
Yeah, and then the tree here, got the lights. Like I'm looking, this is the actual tree, and then so I thought you would enjoy this, Kyle. That's one of your favorite movies.
I do. Eddie used to eat things like that, but then he found out they were high in cholesterol. So
yeah,
reference a little Christmas Vacation there. Yes, indeed, this is the final get together for me and Ray. Christmas Day, I am not working. Ray, you're not working either next Monday, right?
Correct. That's the one day off, which is going to make next week a lot of fun. Condensed schedule, trying to get everything on time ready. But yes, I will be off on Monday as well, so no show. And
reminder, there are 3 games on Christmas Day. I'm sure the networks will remind you of that at some point this weekend. We will be back next Tuesday. Until then, though, we've got a good hour to get you set for a pivotal Week 16. Great to have you on board, whether you're joining us via X or the YouTube channel, Facebook, listening via the podcast, and spread the word as you're hanging out at the dinner table for people who are looking for enjoying talk each and every day. Ray and I get rolling at 11 a.m. Eastern, and we're even happy and excited and full of vigor, even on a day when, yet again, Ray Flowers, San Francisco Giants, have lost out on another big name free agent. Ray, we really appreciate your franchise trying every year to get somebody to come to San Francisco. There's always next year. You lost out on Yamamoto. He's the latest, but like I said, you got next year. There will be more free agents to go, and the Giants are just stockpiling money. They'll be able to hand out like probably $800 to $1 billion next year.
Yeah, and I got a lot to say about all of this, none of it having to do with sour grapes because the Giants didn't sign anyone. But I won't derail the show.
Yes,
I'll wait until later on, but I'll just say this. I tweeted it out last night at the Ray Flowers. Very simply, this is terrible for baseball.
If you would like to see Ray Flowers spew pretty well smoke out of his ears and nostrils, stick around. We'll get to that in about 45 minutes as we talk about Yoshinobu Yamamoto going to the LA Dodgers. Who'd have thunk it, huh? Who'd have guessed the Dodgers would still have money left over? Until then, though, we got a lot of football. Obviously, Ray and I are going to sit here, recap Thursday night football. As expected, I want to say it was an entertaining game, but it was a bit of a game worth watching because both teams have talent. Both teams were playing for something. Rams come out on top. Some big efforts from their side, not so much from the New Orleans Saints side. If you were counting on guys like Kamara or Taysom Hill, you probably didn't get what you were hoping for going into the start of Week 16. We will get you set for a weekend of wondering. It is this way at this point of the year every year, where we've got injuries galore. A couple of guys we're really wondering about, Josh Jacobs and Kenneth Walker. And with the schedule the way it is and with it being spread out throughout the weekend, some of these decisions can be highly difficult for Week 16. Russell Clay is going to stop by. Been a while since we checked in with Russell, so we're looking forward to visiting with him in about 20 minutes or so. We'll get some DFS head-to-head battles. Ray and I will suggest which direction to go at quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end. We'll look mainly at the Sunday slate for that. And as noted, we'll sneak in some baseball. We also have new rule changes, more rule changes. MLB is becoming like NASCAR with their rule changes, but at least baseball does theirs in the preseason and not in the middle of the year. So kudos to them on that. And as always, Ray, I guess this will be our final opportunity, at least for you and I, to promote the gift that keeps on giving. all year long, as we said yesterday. Folks, make use of that promo code at the bottom. Ray, ho is still available, right?
It is. It can help you with your seasonal football. It can help you with your wagering in football. And it can help you with your DFS play in football through the Super Bowl. Okay, so it's all of it. You get Discord, you get all the articles, you get everything, the whole NFL package. Use the promo code HOHO through the Super Bowl. And then you can also use the promo code FSD20. That's our running promo code here on the show. That gets you 20% off on any of the products. You want to buy a Jeff Mans t-shirt. You want to buy a Ray Flowers t-shirt. You want to get the baseball product in 2024. You want to get soccer. You want to get basketball. You want to get hockey. Use the promo code FSD20. It'll get you a discount on all that stuff.
How much time do I have to put in to get my own t-shirt?
Good question. You're not, you don't,
Boy, Ray, that really fired me up. You're like, what are you talking about? Never. No, you will never get your own.
No, I was thinking because Jeff Mans has got, the Santa Mans when he's looking at the Christmas tree, right? I wore that the other day. People saw it. You can find it in swag at the top on fantasyguru.com. So he's Mr. Santa. That's his thing, right? He gets Santa Mans. He puts the big Santa hats on, gives stuff away. I'm quote unquote the Oracle. So I've got the Oracle Gnome. So that's what my t-shirt is. You don't really have it. You got to get
wait a second, Ray. It's the Christmas season, and hell, my name starts with ELF. Could we not come up with a Christmas shirt for Elf? I mean, my God, I fit perfectly. What is this?
It does make sense, actually, now that I hear
How
Elf.
do I exit this stream? Can I just leave now?
Ray will be kicking us for the next hour by himself.
Yeah. Insulting, man. Maybe next year. Maybe
all
next
right,
year.
We'll work on it.
On the totem pole. Maybe. Right. I don't know. Or at least give me a hockey shirt for rinks. I don't know. Something. Please. Check out that store. An Oracle. What is it? An Oracle shirt? You've got one?
Yeah. Absolutely. It's the Oracle. I'll get a logo and I'll
let me see that sometime. I don't know if I've ever seen it. So
okay.
I'd like to check that out because people are looking for great gifts, Ray. And I'm kind of surprised that Gwyneth Paltrow's Goop didn't have that as their gift of the year in 2023. Very surprising.
It's that. What a weird name too. I saw her talking about that on Shark Tank once. I was like, that's a weird.
What, Gwyneth?
No, Goop. Yeah, but
she's kind of a weird person, Ray. She's a little out there, but people love her. I wish I could say the same. I'm out there, but people don't love me near as much as Gwyneth Paltrow. It must have something to do with beauty and money, of which I have neither.
You think?
Oh well. We'll save that for another podcast. Okay, let's get rolling, Ray. Thursday night football. Yesterday we had Ryan Clifford on. He was doing the DFS Showdown preview. And we asked him, okay, man, I think you asked him, Puka or Cup? And he warned us. He said, I've gotten this wrong all year, so do the opposite of what I'm going to tell you. And he said Cup. Ray, it was a Puka night. The return of Puka Nacua, who I realize, again, it's been front-loaded.
Mm-hmm.
But, Ray, he has been a part of this offense all year. I mean, on average, 10 targets a game. That's for the whole season. And he's going to end up well beyond 100 catches. We'd love to see more touchdowns, but I don't care how you cut it. He has been a huge success this year. Maybe the waiver pickup of the year. We kind of forget. Like, if you got him early, Ray, you've had a starting wide receiver, if not a wide receiver one, all year long. And last night was a reminder of that against the Saints.
Well, I did draft him in one league, in the Jeff Mans home league. So I'll actually be able to keep him next year because there's keeper rule. So that's pretty good because he was like a 16th round pick or whatever. But yeah, he was likely on waivers in 95% of leagues. Yeah, totally. And he's been terrific he's been spectacular overall. His numbers, he's setting all kinds of rookie records and all that. As you noted, and as we've discussed, it's been uneven. There's been huge games. There's been games where he hasn't done anything. So there hasn't been that consistency. But in the end, for what the cost was and what the return is and what you're getting now in the fantasy playoffs, no one's going to be complaining.
Well, and Ray, if you look at him game by game, and obviously last night, 164 yards, a touch. I mean, that's a hit. Do you count like 5 for 80 as a hit? Probably not. You say it's an okay game, but that's what he had last week. And when you stack it up over the course of the year, Ray, we'd like to have more touchdowns. I mean, they're a little light, especially with how this offense has kind of emerged in the last month plus. But if you look at any receiver outside of the huge names, and by that I mean A.J. Brown and Jefferson and Tyreek Hill, those guys are going to give you top-end games, or at least they have, 80% of the time? I mean, they've been that way in PPR setups. Nakua Ray's probably going to come in at a 60 to 65% rate here. That's top 15. So I get it, the up and down nature, but when you stack it up, after you get outside the huge names at wide receiver, Ray, it's actually a lot of this, like Nakua has put up this season.
Yeah, and so I think that's one of the misnomers, if you will, at the wide receiver position, well, not any position, but the wide receiver position, is that people think that, their guy's going to give them 15 points a week, and they don't. And that's why we talk all the time about, what's your expectation? What's your need? Look at the matchup, look at your team. Do you need a floor? Do you need a ceiling? Like there are players out there, that give you the same thing every week. They give you 13. We talked Chris Godwin. He's had a couple of nice games, a couple of down games, but really it's 550 every week. It's the same thing every week. So you know what you're going to get. With Puka, you didn't get that. But to your point, there's only 10 receivers, that maybe less, that give you the 15 every week for guaranteed. It's not, the matchups are the way they are, the game flow, the weather, health, all these things come into play, and it's very difficult to be a wide receiver that gets 9 targets every week, catches 7 of them for 75 yards every week. It's very difficult to do that.
Yeah, and I'm looking at it in a PPR setup, Hill, Lamb, and even Keenan Allen. Those 3 guys are averaging over 20 points a week in a PPR setup. And then after that, Ray, we've got from about, I guess, spot 4 to about spot 17 or so. It's between 19 and 16. And Nakua's in that field. With last night's effort, he's up to 16.5, 16.6 actually. So again, you've got those top 3 dudes who are 20 points on average. The next guys, which are all good players, that's St. Brown, that's Jefferson, that's Brown, that's Chase, that's Diggs, that's Samuel, that's DJ Moore, Mike Evans. All these guys rate 19 to 16. And again, that's where Nakua lands. So, we can pick and prod. I guess the next question would be this, right? It's very easy to sit here and say Tyreek Hill's a wide receiver 1 next year. And, CeeDee Lamb and Chase and Jefferson, wide receiver 1. What's Nakua next year? Assuming, and this is maybe not a fair assumption, but assuming Ray, Stafford's back, Williams back, McVay, the same guys. Where would you put Nakua, you think, going into next season?
Yeah, great question. And I think that, and Adam Schefter tweeted this out earlier, was talking about all the records that receivers set catching passes from Matthew Stafford. We got Nakua setting all the rookie records. You had Cooper Kupp. You had Calvin Johnson, right? Can you have 2 guys catching 85-plus passes? You can, right? You can. Is it easy to do? It's not. And I think that all of this really is predicated upon 2 things that we don't know for certain. One is, if Matthew Stafford going to keep playing and be with the Rams? And 2, is Sean McVay going to still be the coach? I think those 2 things we have to have an answer. Assuming they're back, I think you have to look at Puka and say he's a top 25 guy. I think you have to. Is he top 15? I'm not getting that aggressive as long as the team is still put together.
Well, I'm looking at it last night. Matthew Stafford, 34 pass attempts. Ray, those 34 pass attempts went to 4 players.
Yeah.
That's it. And so you're right. 85 is kind of tough to have 2 of those guys. But if that's going to be, and that's not going to be every game, but it shows.
Kyren Williams didn't even get one. Kyren Williams got nothing. He wasn't even one of the guys.
But it indicates how the Rams can. Yeah. They scored 30 points last night, and it was 2 guys. And then there's Demarcus Robinson, who somehow, some way has scored a touchdown in 4 straight games. That's a guy, Ray, that really, even doing waiver wires and talking about this, we've never really brought him up. And yet there are people out there who've picked him up and probably are like, hell yeah, this is great. Now, I don't know how many people have picked him up and started him. That's kind of a concern, but he has come on. Kupp was a little disappointing last night. That'll happen. He still had 12 targets. It's just bad timing, if you will, for Cooper Kupp. But I would make the argument that he got you to this point because he's been huge the previous 2 weeks. So I know in week 16 it wasn't all that good. The catches were down, the yardage, no touchdowns, all that. it was worse on the Saints side here, Ray.
Mm-hmm.
And we were closing in on a disaster all around, except for the fact that the Saints were in catch-up mode the entire fourth quarter. And so that saved Derek Carr. That helped Chris Olave. Unfortunately, that was it. The rest of this box score for the Saints, Ray, especially Kamara and Taysom Hill, this is a total dud in week 16 for those guys.
Yeah, and that's 2 weeks in a row, by the way, for Taysom Hill. And for everyone that's played the Taysom Hill game, boy, did you get your shorts burned. I mean, that's just, 2 touches, 2 yards. Great. The Kamara thing, I mean, he caught 5 passes, which didn't do enough. I mean, if you're in a PPR setup, it did 9 carries for 19 yards. They didn't do anything. I mean, he led the team in rushing. He was the only player that had 10 rushing yards. They had 19. Like they didn't move the ball all on the ground. And even through the air, Johnson scored, Perry scored, Shaheed scored, and Kamara just caught 5 balls for 16 yards. Terribly disappointing. You had to play Kamara. It was the right call to play Kamara. Just, it sucks. I mean, there's no, hopefully you can live to fight another week next week if he's on your team, but that was a killer, Kyle.
And Kyren Williams, we don't want to fail to mention him. Another 100-yard rushing effort. Ray mentioned no catches, but Ray, I think is it 6 of 8 games? He's been over 100 yards rushing.
Yeah, and
Kyren Williams.
He scores a touchdown every week too. He's been terrific this year.
I mean, that's another guy, Ray. Both Williams, again, may have been drafted. A lot of people were more focused on Cam Akers, I think, and Williams was probably like if you drafted a deep afterthought, final pick, whatever. But Ray, that's another guy picked up, and sure there were injuries, but another massive hit. I mean, a massive waiver wire still in Kyren Williams this year.
Yeah, and Jeff Manz has talked about this a lot, and there's been a lot of no one talked about this guy. Jeff talked about Kyren Williams a lot in preseason, and in the Elite Listener League, I'm looking at it right now. I took Kyren Williams in the 12th round, so there were people, Fantasy Guru, that had Kyren Williams. I think we had the majority of the shares of anyone that drafted him in the universe because no one was talking about him at all. Mm-hmm. But again, I was a 12th round pick for me, so I wasn't like I was expecting him to be a weekly starter, right? So he's been terrific, and it's not just he didn't catch passes last night, but it's not just he catches passes. He runs the football. He's consistent. He plays all the snaps. Like he's been a workhorse to the Todd Gurley level, and it's been fantastic this season.
8 of 11 games this year, he's over 100 total yards, and it's true. 6 of his last 8, he's over 100 yards rushing. I don't think there's another running back who can say that in an 8-game stretch. I really don't. I don't even know if McCaffrey can say that. 6 of 8 games with over 100 yards rushing. So Kyren Williams is putting up that sort of season. Both those guys, Naku and Williams, very big to start your week 16. Stafford, good enough. Carr got you 3 touchdowns, over 300 yards. Back-to-back weeks for Derek Carr with 3 touchdowns. And I know we talked about both those guys yesterday, and it eventually worked out for both of them. Now, as we look ahead to the remainder of week 16, we've been reminding you of this all week. A couple of games on Saturday, usual slate on Sunday, which is Christmas Eve. And then Christmas Day, next Monday, is a 3-game slate. So as we go through injuries and you start to think about who do I favor, all this stuff, understand the spread of start times and when your decisions have to be made. Ray, one of the big situations we've been following all week is Trevor Lawrence. Bit of an update as we open things on Friday. Slight update here on Trevor Lawrence. What do we got?
Yeah, there is. John Shipley had a video of Doug Peterson sitting up there at the podium saying, guess what? Trevor Lawrence is practicing today. And not only is he practicing today, he didn't think he's going to be limited. So reports were strongly suggesting that Trevor Lawrence was donezo this week. And his head coach just came out and said he's practicing today and we'll see. So I guess the flicker is still on. The light is still lit, if you will, Kyle.
Yeah, and I'm sure it'll be limited. You're not asking Trevor Lawrence to go out there and like bust his ass for an hour and a half on a Friday. But what they have to do, Ray, is at least have him moving around, throwing, participating, standing up for an hour, and then seeing. This is more about after practice than it is about anything in practice. And hopefully we get a good report later today. I don't know if that'll happen because honestly, Ray, they'll probably do a quick post-practice meet and greet, but at that moment, they're not going to know. They'll say, oh, yeah, Trevor looked good, and we'll just have to see. We'll have to see how he reacts in the morning. And then tomorrow, I don't know if we're getting anything on Trevor Lawrence. So we may get something Sunday morning for sure on Trevor Lawrence. But, if you're looking at, hey, do I go Jake Browning this week or Trevor Lawrence? Browning's playing tomorrow at 4:30. You may not have that information on Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, and hopefully everyone that had Stafford just played him last night like we talked about here on the show. Because he went out and did the 328-2, and you got it, right? It's fine. It's done. It's over. You don't have to worry about it. I have Lawrence in one league. I think in that league, I've also got Russell Wilson. So, whatever. I can go with Russell Wilson. It's not a problem. But a lot of people will have more difficult decisions than Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence is in a good spot. He's played pretty good fantasy football. The production's been solid. But health-wise, you gotta look at that clock. Like you said, and you led off the show with it, and you just mentioned it again. Everyone has got to check game times because this week is worse than ever. It's all spread out, and you can't be taking a 0 or running to the waiver wire and grabbing Tommy DeVito. Like, you can't be doing that. So make sure you've got this situation as much under control as you can based upon the information we have at the time.
Check out that question. Joseph just came in with a question, right? It's a 2 QB league. He has Trevor Lawrence, but then look at his trio of possibilities with no Trevor Lawrence in a 2 QB league. Taylor Heineke, CJ Beathard, or Tommy DeVito. Good luck with that one, Ray. I can't wait for your Sunday morning on Twitter.
And I mean, look at here are the last, 7-8 guys in our rankings right now at fantasyguru.com. These are in order too. Nick Mullins, Case Keenum, Ryan Tannehill, Tyler Heineke, Tommy DeVito, Bailey Zappi, Mason Rudolph, Bryce Young, Aiden O'Connell, Easton Stick. Ugh.
That's like a third of the league. That's just ugly.
And that, we can talk matchups and break things down, but at a certain level, we have to admit 3/4 of those guys shouldn't be playing. Come on. So, I went through it. I didn't have CJ Beathard in there because, again, our rankings still hope that I would say Beathard would be – I'd go Tyler Heineke, and I had Beathard right behind him.
I think Heineke would be my choice too, Ray, just because I could see Atlanta having him throw the football 30 times. DeVito, the story is good, but even when they're winning, Ray, his number, you're counting on, you need 70 yards rushing from Tommy DeVito. And I think that's still a high bar for him to get to. He's done it, but if you don't get the 70 yards rushing, you're hurt with Tommy DeVito. Where Heineke, I don't need 70 yards rushing to be okay. But all those guys are okay, I guess, as we go into the week. Who are some other guys who are okay? We mentioned Trevor Lawrence. Sounds like he may have a chance to practice. Tyreek Hill did return on a limited basis for Thursday. So that's a pretty good sign going into the weekend on him. Nico Collins, Michael Pittman, Brian Robinson, Christian Watson, Jaden Reed, all those guys were at practice to some extent on Thursday, which is a decent sign. It's not like you're in the clear, but it's decent. Thursday DNP is a little more worrisome, Ray. And Kenneth Walker still missing practice. And Josh Jacobs, the Raiders came out earlier in the week and said, yeah, he's going to be back. Now, they play on Christmas afternoon at 1 o'clock. But, Ray, there it is. Thursday practice report from the Raiders. Josh Jacobs, DNP. So hopefully today he's on the field. If he's on the field today, I'll probably chance it. But that kind of, threw a speed bump in the plan for Josh Jacobs this weekend. Yeah,
I mean, the team has said he's going to play. That's what they have said. Now, we have to follow this, and we'll have to see. And as we've discussed, you have to have a backup. Hopefully you have Zamir White. Takes care of the problem. You can wait, and it's not an issue. If you're waiting, you've got to have a pivot. So be very careful with that one. Hopefully we'll get clarity today. It still is, Friday morning. We still have plenty of time to get clarity before we have to start making firm decisions. But hopefully we do, because the timing of that game was going to make it tough if we don't know for sure.
Some other Thursday DNP, CJ Stroud. It's just not looking good for Stroud. Don't know if it'd be a shocker if he plays this weekend, but I'd be very surprised. He missed last week, didn't practice last week. Haven't heard anything positive really this week. Devonta Smith showed up with a DNP, and we heard a knee issue, which is a new one for him. That's a guy who's young and practices and plays all the time, so maybe that's a little more of a concern than usual. Marquise Brown still missing practices with a heel injury. Zach Moss, Alexander Madison, Zay Jones, all those guys DNPs. Let's see. Both Jamar Chase and Keenan Allen are officially out for week 16. So you will not have a choice there. Quarterbacks, and I'm not bringing these guys up as great options, understand, but maybe it affects the guys around him. Ray, we're probably going to get Ryan Tannehill back with Tennessee.
Yep.
Sounds like Mason Rudolph is going to be the guy for Pittsburgh. Kenny Pickett will not play, so Mason Rudolph's probably the call there. But, man, it's going to be like old times again. Ryan Tannehill trying to get it done with the Titans this week.
Yeah, and we just went through the litany of the bad quarterbacks, right? At least Tannehill has been an effective NFL quarterback and knows how to run an offense and all that. It's been a long time since he's been an effective fantasy option. The offense is really stuck in neutral. He brings a different component than Levis. He doesn't have the arm strength, of course. I listed him again, just when we're talking to quarterbacks. He's at the bottom of the level here. My hope, and I don't know, I don't feel great about this, but my hope is that, DeAndre Hopkins gets 8-9 targets, but they're catchable targets, and he catches 7 passes. We'll see if that happens.
I mean, Hopkins, you got to play him. You've probably been playing him all season despite the quarterback play, and he's been okay. Nothing too special. Now, speaking of quarterbacks, and, you like to think, oh, man, I'm playing in week 16, and I'm just stacked and rocked and loaded and ready to go in week 16, as we have seen all week long, and the questions are still coming in. People are scrambling at quarterback, even though they're still playing. Even DFS players, you kind of look at some of these very cheap quarterbacks and you think, well, maybe that's the call I should make in week 16. It's great that on this Friday, we get to visit with a guy who every week breaks down the QB position from a DFS perspective. I think that column comes out on Tuesday, and then he's kind of fine-tuning it throughout the week. Russell Clay is back with us here at Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by fantasyguru.com. And Russell is the man that gets to deal with this position. Whenever he got the assignment early in the year, he was probably like, man, quarterbacks are easy. Doesn't matter who you choose, you're going to be fine every week. Oh, how things have changed, Russell. This has not been an easy position this season, has it?
Well, it's just so different than previous years. Basically my entire life, I grew up with the same 5 guys being the best quarterbacks. And now I have to deal with, I'm in a semifinal, and I put out a joke last night. My quarterbacks in these leagues are like Trevor Lawrence, CJ Stroud, like even the teams that were good. It's like, and now they're not even playing. So it's a strange world out there, but shout out to Derek Carr for helping people survive last night.
Well, and not so much. We've been getting a lot of questions. Maybe I've missed his name. I know yesterday on the program, Russell, we had a lot of people talking about Gardner Minshew. And, I know a lot of your column focuses on DFS, but you can kind of answer the question, his prospects for this week, because a lot of people seem to be considering him as a starter. What do you think of Minshew against the Falcons?
Yeah, again, Minshew basically post-bye has been a pretty high floor play. That bad game against the Buccaneers, he survived with a rushing touchdown. But the last 3 weeks, he's been pretty good. And this Falcons team, if they come in and decide to run it 50 times or whatever, whatever Arthur Smith's feeling in his loins, wants to give Tyler Algier
loins. That sounds
wants
to a family program, Russell. Come on.
wants to give Tyler Algier his 50 touches per game, then we could be looking at a low scoring game. But they have had some weird game flows. Minshew, if he gets Pittman back, I think that's probably going to be what helps people decide. Like if Pittman plays, then go with Minshew. If not, maybe you can go with that guy. That's a close second.
Russell, it's the quarterback position is fascinating. We've been talking about it before you came on. Now we're talking about it with you again. When you hear the name Kyler Murray, that's supposed to be one of the guys you start. Now I'm getting questions. Do I go Joe Flacco? Do I go Jake Browning? Do I go Gardner Minshew? Where are we at this week with a suddenly tough Bears defense with Kyler Murray?
Yeah, and that's really the thing, Ray, right? Like we look at the Bears and we say, oh, soft. But, since they made that trade and since Justin Fields has been back, this has kind of been a run-heavy, slow-paced team, and they've kind of been limiting opposing quarterbacks. So, even like last week, the Cardinals put up a lot of points, but it wasn't really through Kyler. He only scored, 13.3 fantasy points, did have 49 rushing yards. So we like to see that. I mean, I guess the thing with Kyler and the first 3 weeks back, he had rushing touchdowns. If he gets one rushing touchdown, you're basically in the clear, especially with this quarterback landscape. So I'm leaning on playing him again, especially compared to some of these secondary options. But then, you mentioned Joe Flacco. It's like, well, I know Joe Flacco is going to throw like 40, 45 times a game. So that is certainly valuable as well. So I'm leaning with Kyler as a top 10 to 15 option this week, but yeah, hasn't been pretty.
Well, talk to us a little bit more, Russell, about Joe Flacco, because the earth it's on its head. We're all upside down. The sky is falling. No one looks at Joe Flacco and thinks anything other than must start. Like, legitimately, people are benching, Hall of Fame bound Joe Flacco, baby. Let's go. Like, I never get, do I start Joe Flacco? It's Joe Flacco starting. You mentioned he's thrown it 44 times in all three of his games.
Yeah.
Where are we at this week? Is he behind Kyler Murray? Is he someone that people should start with confidence? Are you seeing signs of concern?
Okay, so yes, we're starting him, but last week was the first time in this stint with the Browns where it's like, oh, there's concerns here. This is not 2009 Joe Flacco. This is the guy we remember from Denver and that weird Jet stint. That's still in there. And so this Texans defense has been pretty good at times at limiting players. But again, you mentioned the passing volume, and I think that's the name of the game here. Having a quarterback that's going to throw 40 plus times is very, very rare in 2023. So, I'm in on him as well. I'd play Kyler over him. If you're giving me the conviction, I'm playing Kyler over him. But yeah, I think they're right in that same pocket of tier. And Joe Flacco got Amari Cooper. I do like Cedric Tillman as well. He's got David Njoku, who's, I feel like, been an underrated player for a long time. So seeing him actually get this usage, it's like, yeah, I feel like this could have been a thing for a while. So decent weapons there.
At least one more question on the QB spot. Trevor Lawrence, I don't know if you caught it. Doug Peterson said this morning he's going to be at practice. Assuming he's cleared and he's out there against Tampa on Sunday. If you own Trevor Lawrence, is it all systems go? Do you just have to play him, or is there some hesitation even if he's out there on the field for the Jags?
Yeah, I had some questions floating around in the chat last night about, all right, do I go with this random guy or do I go for Lawrence and wait? And my thought is, if you're gonna sort of go with Lawrence, just have Beathard. I mean, we saw this with the Hurts and Mariota thing last week. It's like, I don't want to risk not playing Hurts. And we're in a weird era of football right now where all the best quarterbacks are questionable and we're waiting till Monday night or whatever. But I guess my new strategy that I've had to learn this year, even in season long, it's like, all right, I'm going to wait. And if it's not, I'll just play the backup. So that's my strategy with Lawrence. It was my strategy with Hurts last week.
Russell, 2 minutes and 24 seconds ago, head coach Jonathan Gannon said that Marquise Brown is not playing this week. He's got the heel issue. Does that change your opinion on Kyler Murray? Because you know how this goes. People see that and they get panicked. I would say Marquise Brown hasn't done jack nothing for 6 weeks. He's catching 4 passes for 20 yards. He hasn't done anything. Does that information change your opinion that you just stated on Kyler Murray?
Not really. Again, I think most of Kyler Murray's upside for fantasy is his rushing ability. So, they have Michael Wilson. They have a few other guys that are it's really Trey McBride that is his number one guy, which, be that a good thing or a bad thing, that's the reality. So, yeah, it's now, if you said Trey McBride was out, it'd be like, okay, we can shift away from Murray, but that's the real base of the passing game right now.
We do know that Keenan Allen and Jamar Chase are out. How fired up should we be about T. Higgins and Joshua Palmer? Because it would be a run of them being the top option, we assume, in both those offenses.
Yeah, so Josh Palmer with Justin Herbert, big thumbs up. Josh Palmer with Easton Stick, that's a tougher combination to navigate. I still like Palmer as a wide receiver 2 this week, in that wide receiver 15 to 25 range, but with no Keenan Allen, we even saw as the year went on, teams started to really hone in on Allen. So I can't imagine what this offense is going to look like. This is a real piss poor roster at this point because of all the injuries. So, yeah, not loving that. Higgins, though, hell, Jake Browning, prove me wrong. I was making fun of that guy. He was terrible at Washington, and this guy's look great. So I got to give him the benefit of the doubt at this point and just say, all right, Bengals with Browning. Higgins looked good the last couple weeks. So yeah, I'm in. I think he could have a big week.
Russell, Jordan Love, we can all talk about the things he does well, the things he doesn't do well. There's a lot to analyze, but at the end of the day, it's 250 and 2 every week. Like, he's throwing for 250 yards and 2 touchdowns. Who's catching passes this week? What are you doing with that Packers receiving core? I know it's not a fair question, but we always get these questions, so I'm putting it on you to answer it so that the listeners understand. Watson, we don't know. Reed, we don't know. Wicks, we don't know. And then there's Romeo Doubs. At some point, does Doubs pop because he's the only healthy guy, or is that just not the right way to read this?
Yeah, so I wrote in Trending earlier this week so Romeo Doubs was surviving on those touchdowns earlier in the year. I think he had like 7 touchdowns in the first 9 weeks, and those have kind of gone away with Christian Watson being healthy for a few weeks. And then we have this Jaden Reed thing that's really emerging. And I'm really excited about him for the next couple years. But yeah, with the injury to Reed, he may not play. This is one of those where we're going to have to wait for those injury reports. But Reed's an every week starter as far as I'm concerned when he plays. So that's the factor there. And then, Wicks last week looked pretty darn good as well. So we're going to have to wait. Watson's still kind of hanging around there. So this is like a quad box of, messy wide receivers. So I'm waiting. But yeah, if 2 of those guys don't play, if Watson and Reed don't play, then yeah, I'm going to be in on Dobbs. But I will say, I do have to laugh when you look up the fantasy stuff and you see Carolina's number 1 against opposing quarterbacks. It's like, what? And then you look at the numbers and it's like, oh yeah, they're
yardage allowed. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's not. That's
they
hilarious.
Shut down Desmond Ridder last week. I mean,
yeah. And then you look at some of those quarterbacks they played. Yeah, it's pretty fun.
Okay, we got to get out of here. I know you've got a show 20 minutes from now, the betting show, you and Rob getting together. Give us a peek behind the curtain. You got a teaser bet that you really like for the weekend?
Yeah, so I like shifting into more of the host role on that show, and I just let Tyler Beaker break down his stuff, and then I'll say, oh yeah, I like them too. No, it's a fun show, and me, Rob, and Tyler kind of break down the slate, break down the staff's confidence ratings, and where we're going to go with our picks against the spread for Circa. It's not quite as fun when our Survivor team's not in it anymore, but yeah, it's still a lot of fun to break down the games with all the with the fellas.
Noon Eastern. So again, about 20 minutes away. You can catch it at Fantasy Guru and here on the YouTube channel, I think, and all the usual spots that you hunt it down. Russell, man, awesome. Happy holidays. Thanks for joining us early on a Friday morning, and get more than a lump of coal. How about that? I know you will.
Hey, on 2 lumps at least.
2 lumps. Yeah, you bet. Enjoy the weekend, okay?
All right. See you guys.
Russell Clay, again, check him out. Coming up on the betting show. Rob, Tyler, and him get you set for the weekend with some of their thoughts. Now we've got, is that the shirt, Ray? Is that what you're getting Russell for his appearance? You're going to send him one of those?
Yeah. I sent one to who did I send it to? I did send one to someone.
Not me. I've never seen.
No, it wasn't you.
Yeah, the guy who's hung out with you for 15 years doesn't get one of these damn t-shirts.
I held it to. I sent it to one of our producers at Sirius. That's what it was.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Josh Wagner.
Yeah. Okay. Good for Wags. I'm sure he wears it. You know, who wouldn't wear that to the bar on a Friday night?
Right.
The Oracle.
and it comes in blue as well. Mine's the blue version of it, so you don't have to get gray.
Oh, okay. Well, I kind of like the blue.
Yeah.
While we were visiting with Russell, a couple of other questions came in. Here's one from Henry, a defensive question. We've been getting a lot of these this week. Browns or Jets? I'll say this, right? It's Jets all the way. They're home and they get Sam Howell. Sam Howell is Mr. Sack and Sam Howell is Mr. Pick. I mean, sign me up for that facing Sam Howell and the Commanders.
Give me the Browns.
Ray, come on.
Case Keenum, he's not much better. He narrowly avoided major mistakes last week, including one play we talked about where he spun around and threw a ball back across the middle. Nah. Both, again, this is the randomness of it. Team defense sucks. I mean, it does. I'm going with the team that allows the fewest yards, the fewest passing yards, and facing a backup quarterback. I'll go Browns.
Here's a fun one from Bobby. Justin Fields or Brock Purdy?
Yes.
Purdy going up against Baltimore. I will say this, Ray. Purdy's been too good, and this offense too good for me to bench him. And Fields is too up and down. I've got to go Brock Purdy here. And I understand that could blow up in your face. It's like, why am I taking a QB against Baltimore? But I'm taking Brock Purdy against Baltimore. I'm signing up for that.
And I'm signing up for Justin Fields. We're helping out people today, Kyle. Yeah, the matchup is a really difficult one, right? It's a very difficult one for the Niners. And you said it right. In the case of Fields, there is no certainty. Now, remember, we talked about this earlier. If the two passes were caught by Tanyan and Darnell Mooney, he goes for 280 and 3, and I think everyone thinks really differently about him this week. But his ability with his legs, I think, is just so pronounced. And I think that there's something from the Baltimore Banner, a whole section that I quoted from the article in my weekly matchup piece over at fantasyguru.com, talking about the matchup between Purdy and the Ravens. And it doesn't necessarily play out for Purdy to have a huge effort this week. Let's just say that.
Okay. You think Fields got a better shot at 20 points than Purdy?
I do.
Okay.
I do. But again, is Purdy a starter this week? Sure. Purdy's not ranked 18th, right? I'd start Purdy if I had him, but I would start Fields over him.
Trevor Lawrence, we brought you that news. And again, if he practices today, that might be a decent indicator. Now, remember, Jacksonville plays late on Sunday, so you're going to have to follow the news with Lawrence, I think, all weekend. But G-Bro comes in and says, if I don't have Lawrence, I've got Geno Smith or Russell Wilson. Who would be your choice there? And remember, Russell plays Sunday night, so you could actually wait on the Trevor Lawrence news and be fine. And then Geno Smith is playing on Sunday, but who's your choice there between Geno or Russ?
Yeah, I'd go Geno Smith. Now, there's health risk. That's a concern, but the Titans are really bad against the pass. And that's a matchup where Geno Smith should do the 250 and 2 with no problem. I'd go Geno Smith. Russell Wilson has really saved a lot of his weeks with his rushing piece, the rushing touchdowns, and those are hard to count on.
Okay. Thanks for the questions. As always, Discord will be open throughout the weekend. Even with the holidays, you don't have to worry about that. That somebody's going to be in there. Maybe not Ray every single second, but most seconds, Ray Flowers will be in there to help you get some lineups set. And remember, there's 2 games tomorrow, so if you're into DFS and playing that slate, we're going to have people there throughout Saturday morning into Saturday afternoon. Same thing on Sunday, same thing on Monday. We will be helping you right here at fantasyguru.com. Ray, a few quick head-to-heads in DFS.
Okay.
And this is going to be for the Sunday slate, okay? And these are all DK numbers, DK price tags. Jared Goff, Ray, at 6,900, or Jordan Love at 6,500. Very little difference there. Of course, Goff on the road. He's a little weaker. It's not like dramatic like it used to be. They are winning games on the road. They've got Minnesota, Jordan Love on the road at Carolina. 6,900 for Goff, or 6,500 for Love.
We have Love a couple of spots ahead in the rankings. I would agree with that in general. We're talking about a little bit of a savings. There is the home road thing with Goff. It's indoors, so there's not a weather concern with him. but I would go Jordan Love. That offense with the Lions needs to reestablish itself, right? It's been a little wonky the last month. Goff's a good starter. I think I'd go, though, with Jordan Love.
Let's talk about running backs who might be very average, but they get all the work. Ty Chandler, staying with the Vikings in Detroit there, 5,600. Or Devin Singletary, 5,500. Singletary home against the Browns. So pretty well the same price at DK, Chandler versus Singletary.
I would go with Chandler. Now, this is predicated on the assumption that Madison's out, of course. But yeah, I'd go with Chandler. He's going to soak up a huge amount of the volume. The situation with the Texans, that's not an easy matchup. It's just not an easy matchup for them this week. And with the backup quarterbacks, I'm not anticipating Stroud playing. Things could go wrong pretty badly there, and they could end up even falling behind to Joe Flacco.
Let's check in on that Commanders-Jets game because, hey, somebody has to. Wide receiver head-to-head, Ray. Terry McLaurin, 5,700, or Garrett Wilson, 5,800. Same game, two good receivers who, if they had decent quarterbacks, could be stars. McLaurin or Garrett Wilson in that matchup?
McLaurin now, yeah, the Jets, like you said earlier, the Commanders could go horribly wrong this week too, based on the matchup, but I'll go with McLaurin, even though McLaurin's success, as we and others have pointed out, really last week was with Jacoby Brissett. There's always a chance he'd go to Brissett again in this game. Who knows? But I'll go with McLaurin. I can't trust the Jets offense at all. They don't ever score, right? So we know that. And who's quarterbacking, who's throwing I'm just out on the Jets. Give me Terry McLaurin.
And finally, at tight end, we've got our tight end coach column up. I think, who writes the tight end column? I'm struggling to remember. Is it Ted? Maybe no, he does running back. So whoever writes the tight end column, it's up. You can check it out. And I was looking at Sunday's slate. Most of the tight ends I think people are going to gravitate to are going to be the high end guys. But if you want to save a little money, Ray, I'm wondering, Jake Ferguson, 4,900 in a game that has a total over 50 between the Dolphins and the Cowboys. Ferguson at 49, or do you go even cheaper and jump on the Tucker Kraft bandwagon at 3,700? About $1,200 cheaper to go Kraft.
If I had to choose one, it would be Ferguson. Now, I think the answer to that is how your build is, right? I think that Ferguson also is likely to have the higher, because what people do, right, in DFS, they go and they look at the point total. What's the spread? What's the point total? And it's two top offenses in football. Let's go. We're going to get 75 points. So I think Ferguson's ownership rate would probably be higher too. I'd prefer him in a seasonal. I could go Tucker Kraft. I don't really like paying down at tight end. I don't really like doing that. And I especially don't love doing it to a guy in Kraft that, it's 3 or 4 catches. It's 50 yards, right? He really needs to get in the end zone. No, Ferguson isn't appreciably different than that in many weeks.
And I would suggest, again, like Ray kind of said, pay up this weekend. On that Sunday slate, you've got Hawkinson, Laporta. There's a third name on that. Oh, McBride. He's also on that list. I think paying up for all those guys kind of fits for me. That is a look at a few head-to-heads for Week 16 of the daily fantasy sports slate. Again, we've got Saturday, Sunday, and Monday slates in the NFL this week. Before we get out of here, got a few minutes for Ray Flowers to go off on Yoshinobu Yamamoto joining the LA Dodgers. Ray, he has to settle for 12 years, $325 million. We have not heard if 325 is going to be deferred.
He's paying for free.
I guess it would be legal. Okay. I kind of mocked you and your Giants fandom that you guys lost out again. You claim that you're not pissed off because the Giants lost out on a pitcher. What are you pissed off about?
I can't believe I got pushback on this at the Ray Flowers on Twitter X. This is terrible for baseball. It's just terrible for baseball. And it's not about the Dodgers or anything. It's not about the players. It's not. You have the Dodgers have $850 million deferred. $850 million deferred, okay, to Betts, to Freeman, to Ohtani. They have spent, because you got to get a posting fee with Yamamoto too of like $50 million. They basically spent $1.2 billion on 3 guys, okay? The Dodgers have spent more money on 3 players than every other team in baseball has spent on every free agent they have signed. This is bad for baseball. It's not about building a super team. It doesn't guarantee the Dodgers win the World Series. It's not about that. I thought of it like this. When someone's house is broken into 3 blocks away, okay, you're a little more vigilant and not, yeah. When your house gets broken into, now we're getting alarms, we're getting dogs, we're doing all these kind of things. Major League Baseball's got a problem with spending, the haves and the have-nots, and everyone knows it, but it's okay. The Dodgers just hit you right in the face with it. And if you think now that it's fair for baseball to have the entire Major League system spend less money than one team is spending on my God, Kyle. Like the haves and the have-nots, again, it's a dirty little secret. It's in your face so much. Baseball's got to step in here. They have to, because the Dodgers print money in the basement. They've got a massive contract for TV. They charge astronomical prices for their tickets. They're always going to have more money. Always. There are teams in Major League Baseball right now that have admitted they're not signing free agents because they don't know what they're going to get from TV revenue. Because the Bailey's thing blew up in everyone's face and all that. So they're not signing free agents because they don't know. And here, meanwhile, Dodgers, here we go. We're at the strip club. It's just terrible for baseball.
Well, any kind of punishment, tax, luxury, cap, any of that stuff, the players have to be on board. And why would the players settle for that? Because they're making killings. Mm-hmm. Now, I would say if I'm a player, and here's the fact, you throw in that posting fee that Ray mentioned, it in effect cost the Dodgers $375 million to get Yamamoto. No pitcher in the history of baseball has ever gotten that much raw money in a contract. So this is a guy who's never thrown a pitch in baseball getting this kind of money. So if I'm a major league pitcher, I'm like, this is kind of unfair. And I get it, Ray. He's 25. A lot of people have pointed out the last Japanese pitcher to make this move at this age, because that's the big argument is he's so young. You can't get free agent pitchers at the age of 25. Masahiro Tanaka was 25 when he came to the Yankees. Exact same age. He had been successful. Yamamoto a little more successful, but he was the best pitcher in the Japanese league, age 25, all that. And Tanaka was fine, Ray. Mm-hmm. But he lasted 7 years. And they left. You can say what you want about the Dodgers, and maybe they don't care. Most teams don't. They just want the pitcher for the here and now. But Ray, this ain't going to age well. I can guarantee you that. He will probably have 2 Tommy John surgeries in the next 12 years. Honestly, I feel good about that bet.
Yeah, 12 years for a pitcher is stupid.
Yeah.
It's patently stupid. It just is. And Travis Sawchuk put this out since 1990. There have been 6 pitchers since 1990, 30 plus years. 6 pitchers listed at 5'11", 180 or smaller. That's Yamamoto size, 5'11", 180, who have thrown 1,000 innings in the big leagues. 1,000 innings. That's 5 years of 200.
But he's the next Pedro Martinez.
Oh, he is. Pedro's on the list, of course. Yeah. But it's Pedro, Tom Gordon, Mike Leake, Tim Lincecum, Marcus Stroman, Corey Lytle. That's it. 6 guys in 30 plus years.
Corey Lytle?
Lytle.
Oh, Corey Lytle. Wow.
Yeah, right?
Some of these things are not the same. Pedro Martinez and Corey Lytle. Jesus.
Yeah. But think about 6 pitchers in 30 years this size have thrown 1,000 innings. I mean, and Yamamoto might throw 2,000. Who knows? But none of this makes any sense. It doesn't make financial sense for the Dodgers to do it, to be fair. But my greater point is just, like I said, this is just so bad for baseball. I mean, and you're right. As a player, I've busted my ass and pitched in the majors. I'm an all-star 4 times. And you paid this dude. You gave this dude twice as many years you gave me. You gave this guy 3 times as much money as you gave me. I don't know. It's good for the players in general because it bumps salaries up. But there's got to be some butthurt guys out there, Kyle.
I suggest, Ray, you start a Twitter firestorm by saying the Dodgers just signed the next Corey Lytle. Why don't you go for that?
You
moron. One last thing on this. I had to look it up. Because what does this work out to? 12 years, 325. I lose track of this, Ray. What is that? 30 million? I mean, it's like 25 million a year, something crazy like that. It's like 28 million a year. The highest paid player in the history of the NPB, which is the Nippon Professional Baseball League. This is the league Yamamoto is coming from. The highest paid player that has ever been there is actually Tanaka, who is now back there, I think now. He's like, 35 or whatever age he is. But Ray, he is the highest paid player in the history of the NPB. He makes $6.5 million US. a season. Why wouldn't all these guys want to come over here?
Yeah.
They just got to dominate in that league, and they can somehow turn it into $325 million. They can make 4 or 5 times as much as they could ever pray for in the MPB. Kind of crazy.
Eric Fede, whatever, went across and had a good year, and he got $15 million. The guy couldn't even get a big league job. He came back. We saw it with Merrill Kelly even. So there's guys that go and come back. Maybe Jesus Aguilar will pull the trick off this year. I don't know. But come here. It's where the money is. That's the way it's played for sure.
Yeah, the stateside, we get Yamamoto. They get Jesus Aguilar, and I think Corey Dickerson has also made the move. That's a fair trade.
Totally fair.
We'll take your Yamamoto. You get our Aguilar and Dickerson. Good luck with that, folks. Okay, we got to get out of here. I mentioned the betting show's coming up, so we got to clear the pass. Ray, have a great holiday, Christmas Eve, Christmas. Everybody out there, have a wonderful holiday, and then we will be back next Tuesday, 11 a.m. Eastern, right here with Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com.